Welcome, one and all, to a strange uh, juggling lessons. I'm not going to be doing the questions today. I'm going to be doing answers. And these other three are going to do the questions. So it'll be great questions, you can already tell. In a discussion about a week ago, we were doing a review of David's uh, uh, video, wherein at about 20 something minutes, he asked the question. What was the question?
Well, it's kind of a two-part question, and,
Mhm.
and there's a reason why I asked the first question. But the second question is what, on a scale from 0 to 100, what
Mhm.
percentage of the conclusions you hold about our world would you prefer be accurate?
Mhm. Okay, good. So, I found myself in the minority when we discussed this because almost everybody on the panel said, "Oh, 100%. I want all of my answers to be accurate." And I said, "Oh, something less than 100%. I'm gonna just for fun, I'm gonna pick 95%." And that very much depends on the context. Like if I want to have confidence that the next jet flight will land safely, I'm looking for higher than that number. But if I'm looking for how many calories are in this yogurt, I'm fine with a much sloppier answer, something of that order. So it depends on how much it matters to me, and it depends on what sort of precision matters to the question. But I'll choose 95% as a basic answer to that question. So I would, I suppose, in one sense, I would love to be able to press a button and know everything. But knowing that that's not practical or possible, I know that I want to accept a lower than a 100%. And if it costs me more to get closer to 100%, I'm willing to trade that off. Does that make sense to you?
The the amount of confidence you want to have in a conclusion is based on how important it is to you and how much it costs to be wrong.
Yeah, there's a cost benefit ratio toward approaching 100%. So I'm, for a given context, very willing to accept a lower number than 100%.
So the 95 is, so we're talking about each individual claims confidence, or are we talking about your preference of the amount of or the percentage of the conclusions that you hold in total?
Yeah, yeah. The first answer, where I would take any particular confidence and say I want to have an appropriate confidence in it, on average 95% confidence on things,
Hmm.
uh, is just that I know that I have imprecision in my beliefs. I only know pi to off the top of my head, like 5 or 6, 7 digits, something like that. And I think as a carpenter, I don't need more than 3 digits of pi to make anything as closely as I ever could. But that's more like the difference between accuracy and precision. In I think in if you're asking the question accuracy, do I want to be accurate in a thing? I could easily say the hub of the wheel is somewhere inside the rim. And if you were making a wheel and it wobbled like this, you would probably not be okay. So there's a question of how precise do you need for any particular condition. But I could have extremely high confidence that the hub of the wheel was inside the rim, even if the wheel was all messed up, as long as it wasn't, destroyed, that kind of thing.
If
So there's an accuracy versus precision question in here.
if it could perfectly fit with the rim, why would you not want that?
Uh, it may be that let's say the hub is within a millimeter of right. and I can't feel the difference between that and a hub that's half a millimeter from right, then I'm not willing to pay twice as much. I'm not willing to pay more if I can't tell the difference.
Mm.
So there's a cost toward having a more precise, a more perfect wheel.
How do you evaluate the costs?
Oh, very much case by case. If something involves risk, danger, that kind of thing, then uh, uh, I evaluate that cost, risk versus danger. I also might lean to one side or the other. It's the is the gun loaded question. The failure on one side is so much worse than the failure on the other side that I might even have that as an example of a noble truth where I am willing to believe the gun is loaded even if I have evidence to the contrary. Things like that.
Yeah, that the gun loaded question comes up a lot, I think, in my head, because it's like I want to act as if the gun is loaded,
Mm-hmm.
but I would rather be correct, I think, about the gun actually being loaded or not. Like that
Mm-hmm.
seems more beneficial than, whether you act as if it is or not. I don't know. That's how I see it.
Yeah, there's a practical acting as if the thing is true, even independent of your actual beliefs. That yes, that I could see the difference in there, where you might believe it's unloaded and still act as if it is. Yes,
hmm
yeah, and if there was any doubt at all, you might suspend your belief entirely and just say, "I'm going to act on a policy without even trying to decide whether it's true."
If for some beliefs there were no cost to attaining like a higher level of accuracy, would you still prefer to have 95%
Oh
beliefs
no,
accurate?
pedantically. If it's easy to measure another digit of pi or memorize another digit of pi, go ahead. That's just fun. It's
Okay.
fun to know things at excessive precision.
Okay.
That doesn't much matter.
So if there were no cost associated, you would prefer the 100% rather than the 95?
Yes, if there were no costs, if there were no downsides, I would prefer the 100%. And I just recognize that in almost everything in my life, there is a cost toward achieving those final digits.
Okay.
I have a hypothetical.
Mhm.
Like if if it could be possible that all of your conclusions are accurate, would you want that to change? Would you want it to be 5% inaccurate?
Okay, so I get the magic button that says I can become in some limited way omniscient. I think I saw an example the other day ask if you could press a button that would lose all your false beliefs, would you press that button? And on the face of it, I would say sure. But then I look at what's the cost. Does that mean that I used to believe something that was an approximation and now I don't have any idea at all? That would actually be a detriment to me. That's actually a little bit how I felt over the last decade or two, where I used to have very high confidence in things. And then I reworked my epistemology and learned that I was believing a lot of things for bad reasons, which meant I flushed a lot of beliefs that were based in bad reasons and didn't have a belief. I didn't have an opinion about that thing until I reestablished it by better means. And that was expensive. That's personally very annoying when you used to believe a thing and now you're just like, ah.
It was costly to realize that you shouldn't be as confident, maybe. Is that kind of what
Yes.
you're?
Yeah, it was costly to lose that confidence. I mean, I think I'm in a better place. I think I'm more right now, less wrong.
Mhm.
And I have much less confidence about things in general on average.
Yeah. I think I'm asking a different question here, though. Like, as far as the hypothetical goes, like, if you could find out that all of the current conclusions you have about our world were accurate, like, would you work towards changing that to make it go down 5%?
I think the benefit might be that I could adopt a much larger set of beliefs. If I started with, okay, all my current ones are set to 100%. Now, as I'm gaining additional beliefs, do I have the option of only gaining those that are perfectly right? Or am I back to the same thing of there's a cost to attaining certainty? And I would say for new beliefs, I would be perfectly happy to have them reach a threshold depending on the category.
You're talking about moving forward, future beliefs.
Yeah, as I gain future beliefs, are those automatically checked to be 100% by whatever this omniscience button is, or am I acquiring them through the normal process, which I expect to be flawed?
Yeah, I'm interested in currently, though, like the currently right now. If you found out that all of your beliefs were accurate, would you work to change that? Would you take actions that would cause the amount or the percentage of your beliefs to be accurate to go down 5% to the 95 where you say you want to be?
No, if I had good reason to believe that any one particular belief was solidly accurate, I don't think I would be able to change that belief. I think I would become doxastically closed about all of my beliefs, which would probably put me in really bad habits. That would probably give me way too much confidence and make me a cocky asshole.
Do you want 5% of your conclusions to be inaccurate?
I want to accept that 5% of my conclusions are inaccurate. I want to act as if 5% of my conclusions are inaccurate and not knowing which 5%.
Yeah. This is a preference, though, like, and this is why I asked the first question, is to kind of get past this part of the difference between how many, like, what percent do we expect to be accurate versus how many do we hope or would we prefer to be accurate? Maybe, can you answer the first? Maybe it might help for you to answer the first question.
Okay.
Like, currently, what percentage of your conclusions are you convinced are accurate?
In some categories, I would say it's as low as 70%. I would say on average, it's 90 something.
Yeah, if we had a bucket and the bucket is full of little pieces of paper with your conclusions written down on them.
Yes.
What percentage of that bucket, this is total conclusions. What percentage of that bucket are you convinced are accurate?
It depends on how many trivial things I wrote in. Trivial things that we can all observe, like what address am I at right now?
Yeah, I'm including those.
Yeah, well, then that's going to run the number up. And that, if I include all the trivials, it's probably well above 95%. And if I were only to look at those things that are controversial or not directly obvious and testable, then I would say it's below 90%.
Okay.
And I think as far as my preference is equanimity. I want to accept what I understand is and operate within that environment. And if I can make it better, great. But I expect that's going to be tiny incremental advantages, not press a button and 100% of something happens.
I kind of what makes me think about is like, and I don't know if this is helpful, but like, what percentage of your ice cream do you want to have fecal matter in it? You know, like, yeah, I could accept, you know, 0.0000001% of my ice cream to have fecal matter in it, but my preference is that it's 100% ice cream. Like, my preference is to have 0% fecal matter in my ice cream. I don't know if that
I can't
that
go
helps. Or maybe like the map, this kind of map analogy. Like sometimes we think about, you know, our perception to be our map of reality, and how if you had a perfectly detailed, perfectly accurate map of reality, would you want to change that? Would you want to make it less accurate by 5%?
No. If I had a perfect map, I would not want to degrade that. I would find that an oddly precious thing. If I were looking at the question of ice cream, though, I don't believe that there is any ice cream that is strongly likely to be absolutely free of fecal matter.
Yeah.
I think
this is a preference. This is like a perfect world situation.
And if I said I want all my ice cream to have no fecal matter, that means I don't get any ice cream.
And that's not good.
Yeah. Dali, I don't know. I think the question David is asking, though, like where you just said if you had a perfect map, and earlier when we said if you had 100%, you would not put in effort to get it down to 95%. You would prefer it be at 100%. I'm thinking that his question, your answer is 100%, and I think you're
that I would prefer to have 100% accurate beliefs.
I think that's your answer to his question.
Okay.
That if your map, it could be perfect, you wouldn't work to bring it down. You don't prefer it to be 95. You would prefer it to be a perfect map of reality.
Right.
You'd prefer it to remain accurate. Sounds like what you're saying.
I would prefer for it to remain as much accuracy as I could attain confidence for, that I could be reasonable about. And I guess my preference here is I guess just reflecting on that I would prefer to be realistic.
Right. So you would accept a lower rate because the work to get to that perfect map is too much work. But so you would accept a lower degree of accuracy.
Yeah. In engineering, nobody would ever ask for perfect accuracy. They would always say, here are the desired error bars. Here's how much we're willing to spend to shrink the error bars down to at least this. That would be the case in engineering and science. And that's kind of where I'm thinking from.
Well, if you ask someone who wanted a bridge built and you ask them, would you prefer that the bridge was completely indestructible and like would be a perfect bridge?
No, that would never work.
No, would you prefer that?
No.
This is all hypothetical. This is a preference.
No, I would not prefer the perfect bridge. It would be far too expensive.
That's not relevant.
Oh.
Okay. Okay.
I
think though the money there is similar to the cost that we're talking about. Like, if you could have a perfect bridge at no cost, would you want the perfect bridge?
Yeah, I guess if you just take out the cost benefit ratio and you say there is no cost, then sure, I'll take the perfect thing. I just don't. I can't think of a single example in the world where that's the case, where there's zero cost for attaining a perfection.
Can you think of a conclusion that you would prefer to be wrong about?
Yes, I'd like to use the wrong value for pi in my calculations. I'd prefer to use a rounded value rather than as much as I could get.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like a pragmatic point of view.
Yeah, it's a pragmatic point of view. It's like how many digits do you want for this application, and then we'll agree to use only that many digits and then move on, and everybody will use the same number, but it's wrong.
Do you want your conclusion about what pi is to be accurate?
The definition of pi, yes, that's pretty important. I need it. I need to understand that it's the relationship of diameter over circumference and not confuse it with radius or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the cost again?
The cost of precision?
Yeah, like I think whenever I was asking about like what's the cost, you said it depends on the conclusion, right?
Yeah. These are categorical. If you're saying the integer 1 plus integer 1 equals integer 2, well, we're correct, unless I flagrantly misunderstand. There's the accuracy and the precision aren't an issue at that point. In practical world, accuracy and precision are never perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is all completely hypothetical, perfect world kind of preference. Your preference, not what you expect to be, or not what you not what you would give enough error for, but like perfect world preference.
If you say, do you want X percent, 80% of your beliefs to be true, there's an obvious thing of saying, so do you want 20% to be untrue? And I think there's a third middle ground where I might want 5% to be untrue. I might expect that it's 80, and there's a 15% that I'm fine with in the fuzzy zone in the middle, where I'm fine with being ambivalent or ambiguous about those. That I don't necessarily want them to be wrong, but I perfectly accept that fraction could be wrong, especially if it costs me to lift a finger to make it better.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm hearing is it's like being realistic, being pragmatic, that adds to, or that takes away from your 100, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. If I were to say that my preference would be for my conclusions that 0% of them be inaccurate, would that be wrong of me?
I think it's only wrong in the sense that it's very difficult to achieve. I don't think it's wrong of you to want to, but I think it would be wrong of you to attempt it. I think it's impractical to attempt it.
Yeah,
Rochelle?
in this world, in our world, right?
Yeah, in our world, it's imperfect, and there's a cost-benefit ratio to precision. Rochelle asks, why do you want to believe true things? Or more precisely, why do you want to avoid false beliefs? Because of my practical choices in the world are constrained by my beliefs. And the more my beliefs align with the reality of the world and everybody else's reality, and coming to an objective position, the better I will get along in the world, the more successful I will be, the safer I will be.
Like you can make better decisions if you have a more accurate version of reality as your map.
Yeah, so long as that accuracy doesn't come at an overwhelming cost. How do I know I would be more successful in the induction? As I've found that I'm wrong about things, I've found that I've made errors that are costly. The more that I find that I'm correct about a thing, the more I find that I'm able to make appropriate answers. But I don't do general relativity to figure out things. I use Newtonian physics, even though I know they're wrong. But they're only wrong by a tiny sliver. Veronica asks, do you think 100% accuracy is better than 90% accuracy, regardless of whether it's achievable? Yes, but only marginally so. I think the benefits of being 1% more correct strategically only slightly better, unless that difference makes a competitive difference that matters in the race, and that's how it's scored. Are truthful beliefs necessarily useful? No. I might know about the Big Bang exactly, or the inflation model, but there's no practical value in my world for that, unless you get 3 or 4 levels down and it starts to influence, and I can learn something better about quantum theory or something from it. Hit the like button. Okay, sure. Hi.
Also, having more true beliefs just satiates your own curiosity better.
Yeah, indeed. Rochelle asks, what if you could have a magic wand and find out that you believed in technically false belief, you would be better off? Oh, okay. So if there were a noble truth, if there were a thing that I could believe that was technically false, but yet it was a practical, useful belief, then yeah, absolutely. And I'll give you Newtonian. If I absolutely believed that Newtonian mechanics was correct, I wouldn't be wrong unless I was, working on something more sensitive than interplanetary missions from NASA. Yeah, I think there are lots of noble truths where the difficulty of using the real answer is impractical, and the noble truth, the close approximation, is necessary to use.
How low could you go on that number?
I'm trying to think of an example of a 0%, where I know that I'm absolutely wrong about a thing, but there's still a noble truth reason for adopting that thing. I don't know. I can't find an example in my mind of getting down to a 0% on a noble truth.
Could you go from 90?
Close. Go ahead.
Could you go from 95 to 90?
Yes.
What would cause that?
Excessive.
About this claim.
Which claim is that?
The
About
claim.
my overall beliefs?
Yeah, I prefer about 95% of my beliefs be accurate.
Yeah, I could easily go to 90 if I were to determine that there was a big fraction of my beliefs in the way that we're looking at them where I don't have, where the cost of getting more right is high and the benefits of getting more right is unimportant, like quantum theory. I don't do the math for quantum theory. I can read what they say, but I'm just taking their word for it. So I don't even think I have a 90% accurate understanding of quantum theory. I'm not even sure I would claim one. How do you choose the level of detail and precision until it's satisfactory to you? It just comes down to practical engineering. If I'm being asked to make something, then part of our meeting is what's our performance, what's our error bars, that kind of thing. If you're asking me to take the inventory in your warehouse, I'm going to negotiate up front an acceptable error rate. I would not be okay with, if I am wrong by 1 at the end of the count, I have failed.
Mm-hmm.
That's no.
It's not worth recounting the whole warehouse. That'd be too big of a cost.
Yeah.
But your preference to the correct inventory, if it would be, how much would that be? Would it still be 95? Like if you had a warehouse and you did inventory and it in a perfect world,
mm-hmm.
how accurate would you want your inventory to be?
So imagine I were talking about a warehouse full of distinct objects, specific boxes of things. Well, it should be easy to get to 3 digits of precision. But if I had a warehouse full of bags of things to weigh, I could easily have only 2 digits or less, because all of my errors would stack up as opposed to being integers. So it depends. Is it applesauce or apples?
Mm-hmm.
Gina asks, do you mean noble lie, something that isn't true but either has benefit or else no particular harm? Yeah, those would be part of the list of things that I would be happy to be inaccurate about. Example, the Bible says you should bury your poop outside the camp, otherwise you will lose favor with God. If a street epistemologist went to the Jews back in the day and made them question that belief, they would start openly defecating,
yeah,
and get sick and be worse off. So if I were to remove their perhaps incorrect belief, I don't want to assert that it's necessarily incorrect, but if they have a perhaps incorrect belief and their response would be to stop following the rule that has helped them all this time, then I'm doing them harm. If I can't manage to replace and say, it's a good idea what you're doing, but for the wrong reason. If they understood the right reason, they might do it even better, because they might, instead of just saying outside of camp, they might put it behind something and they might cover it, and they might this and that, the other thing. They might even be able to have latrines inside their camp that they could make work and be sanitary, and that would help for reasons.
Yeah, SC doesn't help make people just doubt their beliefs. And, questioning does not mean lowering of confidence. It's figuring out what the most rational confidence should be for whatever.
Yeah, we just want to bring it into type 2, slow, careful, deliberate thinking, and then let you make up your own mind. Within SE, I want to let go of the truth of the particular claim and just go to what is good underlying reasoning. That's my personal goal.
Sometimes I explain it as like, we're checking to see if the sufficiency of the reasons that you're using match the confidence that you have in it being true.
Yes.
And if it doesn't match, is that a problem? If it's not a problem, why not?
Right.
Yeah. So a cost could cause you to prefer to be wrong about something.
Yes. If the cost of achieving precision is too high, I balance the cost against knowing the actual right answer. An example I might give is, let's say you live at the edge of a county, and in one county, the weights and measures department says, oh no, 4 digits, you have to be 1 part in 10,000 correct. And the other one says, oh, we'll let you have a 10% failure rate on your thing. We won't hit you at the gas pump unless it's wrong by this much. But it's 10% cheaper in the county that cheats. Well, it seems like you can't lose. It seems like in that particular case, buying cheaper gas that might be metered wrong, can't lose if I at least have the confidence that the discount I'm getting is at least the amount I might be being shorted.
Mm-hmm. If you were to ask one of your interlocutors this question and they said, I prefer 10% of my conclusions to be accurate, and they gave the same reason, like, well, it's because of the cost, what questions would you have for them?
So if somebody made a number that I would find unrealistically low, like 10%, you say, of their beliefs being true.
Well, this is still all preference, so it's not like it's wrong or right. I think it's just like, you prefer vanilla. I prefer a certain amount of my conclusions to be accurate. We're still sticking with the same idea. Yeah. So if they answered 10% to this question, what kind of questions would you ask?
What would be the cost for increasing it by any marginal fraction, any important fraction, like let's say 20%, or add a percent to it? What would be the cost, and why would that cost be unusually high? Is this a special category of things that we have a really difficult time pinning down? Something like that. Is it something with really big error bars? Like if I know the half-life of a thing and I'm trying to predict Geiger counter stuff, it might not be possible for me to make a reasonable prediction that's nice and tight and accurate. So yeah, there are some categories in which a very low precision might be acceptable, but I would think I would find those to be the exception. And so I'd want to find out what categories those would be and what categories they might find higher precisions. I just want to dice it down, figure out why they would put a number that to me seems intuitively too low to be useful.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So how would you answer that question if I thought 95 was too low?
Mm-hmm.
And like, can you put yourself back into your shoes, answering that question? If, let's say, somebody thought 95 was too low for the same reason.
Right. I guess I would try to come up with examples, categories of things that would be correct at 95, that would be too low at 95 and too high at 95. And see if I could move myself into those categories and prefer one over the other.
Mm-hmm. How are you feeling right now? I feel like we just jumped into this head first, and there was like I'm usually, I guess rapport has not been, I guess, publicly established, although I don't think you and I have and John and Reed obviously like we have a problem with rapport with one another, but I don't know. I kind of feel like this has been a bad representation of SE. Maybe it's not. I guess the lack of
that we are all close friends already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is getting to watch what happens after we've had many hours of establishing the relationship.
I also wanted to say that I went back to the video, the review, and we watched it, and I caught myself laughing while we were talking about this, and I kind of felt bad because it could easily be seen as like I was laughing at your answer or laughing at you personally. And I call it a popcorn moment where I'm just enjoying sitting back and watching people just kind of explore this amongst each other and not really taking a position. Like, I don't even, do you know what my position is on this? Like what my number is?
No.
Okay. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there and apologize if you thought that I was laughing at you, like at you.
Oh gosh, no.
Okay. Good.
I don't think I'm ever annoyed by that.
Okay. Cool. Well, I was just kind of put off by myself because I was like, man, it really looks like I'm it's in the wrong place. So how could we find out what the appropriate percentage we should be about our preferences of our accuracy of our conclusions?
I guess we have to take a sample of things because we wouldn't have the available effort to examine every possible belief. So we would have to just pick some examples and then decide if we could benefit by investing more time, or if we have invested more time than we can benefit from, or those kind of things. It would just be an audit of try a few things, see if you can increase your confidence in a thing at reasonable cost, and then see how many fall one way or the other. And if I get a lot of benefit from it, well, I should ratchet my number up. If it turns out to be not worth it most of the time, I should maybe ratchet my number down.
Like take a journal. Take a journal for like a year and kind of run the numbers that way, like assign cost to, well, if I didn't believe this and I
Yeah.
was right, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think in order to make the thing unbiased, it might really help if somebody else were tagging which beliefs could be tested, and then maybe there was some dice to randomly pick between those, just to try to reduce a little bit of the self-reporting bias. Because if you were asking me about my beliefs in these situations, I would immediately be pulling those things which I could pull apart and could be interesting, and that's not a reasonable sample.
Mm-hmm.
Rochelle asks, if you could wave a magic wand and find out that Christianity is technically not true, but believing it will make you better off, would you wave the wand again and make yourself believe? Yes.
No. I would ask, better off in what way? What benefits would you need from a belief that you know is not true? What benefits would you need from it to then want to believe it anyway?
So I'm making the decision before I believe that Christianity is true. So I'm going to put the window at from now to the end of my life.
Right.
I concern myself with afterlife questions. And I'm going to say, during this time, am I better off?
Mm-hmm.
And then I could give a gift to myself of forgetting that it's not true and believing that it was true and think that it was a better thing. I wish my mother's in hospice, and she's a long-standing, heavy faith-based fundamentalist. And I would be very annoyed if anybody tries to go to her and convince her otherwise. She does not have enough time left to gain the benefits of coming to my position about Christianity. I think it took me a couple of years before there was a net benefit. Don't you dare go after my mother. So for that same reason, if it were more beneficial to me in the time I have left, that I could give myself the gift of changing my belief, yes, I would do that. Better for you, better around me. Oh no, I'm sorry. Y'all can suck. It's just about, I'm selfish. You don't believe that. I don't believe that either. But that's, but honestly, yeah. If this were something that were beneficial to me and it was not beneficial to the people around me, I'm allowed to be selfish. Rochelle asked, "What do you think are the net benefits of atheism?" Ooh. Faith really messed with me. Faith allowed me to be highly manipulable. Faith allowed me to be taken advantage of and to spend a great deal of time feeling guilty about things I shouldn't feel guilty about, feeling badly about myself, and working toward other people's goals that were not my own. So I control my life better. I feel much better about myself, and I feel much more confident in my decision makings. I think I can love people better because I have a lot less judgment about them being bad or nasty or dirty or impure or any of those other things. Any other questions?
I mean, I don't really have any other questions. Like, I mean, we could go classic style and say, is there a way to test? You know, but it's more of a preference thing. So it's kind of different because it's not like a truth claim that we're exploring how confident you think something is the case in reality or whatever. It's
it's normative. It's about preferences. So hopefully I've been clear. And if anybody has any further questions about it, if you're just dying to ask me further discussions on this, jugglingLessons@gmail.com. I'm open to anybody to talk to me. Accept sex info or 69 girls XYZ, and fuck off. in the chat with the spam, fuck off. Okay.
Is any of this tied to like morality for you in any way?
For morality, I have to go one step removed and say I should not ask somebody else to believe something more than. So I wouldn't want somebody else to try to ratchet their beliefs much higher than is realistic, or to accept beliefs much lower than is easily reachable. I think I'd be doing them harm to try to encourage them to go outside of an achievable confidence level.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a morality about like not lying, especially lying to negatively influence somebody.
Do you see a difference between achievability and preference?
My preference is based on the achievability, so yes.
Okay.
I think because the difficulty of achieving a significantly higher accuracy or something is a waste of effort, that that if I were to encourage people to waste that effort, I would be doing them harm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I understand where you're coming from a lot more now. Basically, you're basing a hypothetical preference on a real life achievability factor.
Yes. Yes.
Diminishing returns argument.
Yes. Yes, indeed. So,
yeah, I think I understand your position.
Thank you. I think you
John
just
froze.
I think
would you prefer to be wrong about that?
that John froze?
Yeah.
I'm okay with either way. It doesn't matter to me.
You're okay. Okay.
If he's faking it and he's just going
right.
Yeah. Is David doing that, or is he faking? Good stuff.
Do you have any questions for me?
Will this conversation change your approach to this question with people in the future?
Will it change the way I word it?
Yeah. Will you approach this question? Will you have a different question? Will you be looking for a different set of answers?
Oh. Yeah, like how has this conversation sorry, I've got a neighbor that's kind of noisy. So I think I'm going to move inside.
Okay.
Okay, so the question is, how has this conversation, if at all, changed the way that I approach this question or set of questions? I'm gonna have to go back and watch it because I'm not really sure yet.
Mm-hmm.
I've spent lots of hours changing these questions already.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure. Sorry if I'm making you sick.
I'm
not sure if how much impact this one will be.
Okay. I kind of hope it doesn't. Really. I really, really like your question. I really, really like how uncomfortable and itchy it is for people because they see the little it's a great grinder to getting the thinking happening.
Yeah, it lets me know how much I should invest in the answers that they give for other things. Like if it's not important, and this is kind of why I thought it was a lot like Mark Solomon's question from Being Reasonable, like 1 to 7, how important is it for you to believe true things? If somebody is like at a 1 or 2, I'm not sure I'm going to invest that much in anything else they have to say. As far as helping me figure out what's true about the world.
So if they had that low of a bar on wanting to believe true things, you would not want their thinking to influence you, is what I'm hearing.
I would be really cautious about any truth claim they make.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
if they don't care if they don't care if what they're believing is true or not.
Yeah. Indeed. Now, how about if you had somebody who answered low on that scale, would you be more or less motivated to influence their thinking?
Oh, no. I would just do more SE. I would make sure that they're understanding the question that I'm asking, because whenever somebody says less than 100, I want the understanding of the question being asked, the burden of the understanding to be on me, not on them. So in those cases, I try to reword the question, maybe ask the same question again. That's another reason for question number 1 before it, is so that they don't confuse the two things. And so my next step would be to make sure that the question that they're hearing is the question I'm asking.
Right. Rochelle asks, often people being interviewed say that they believe something because it brings them comfort or makes their life better. Do you think that's a legitimate reason? No. Oh, sorry. Should I expand on that? I think if a person finds that's their only reason, that's a big red flag that it's wrong. If they find that is a reason they want to hang on to something, but they have other reasons to believe it's true, that doesn't mean the belief is wrong. That just means their motivation is easily manipulated.
Yeah, in SE, we want for people to pretty much change their own minds through the reflection process, through our questions. And we want them to change their mind in a rational way. And to do that, they need a certain set of critical thinking skills, attitudes, and values as well, related to critical thinking. And if it's a big red flag, if they don't care if their individual belief they're discussing is true, or just in general, they don't care if they want to believe more true things, less false things. That's a red flag. So then if you discover that through like one of these questions David asks, then you can focus on that, which is a higher priority.
Yeah. And that way it's within their own framework. It's they're changing their mind based on what they discovered.
Rochelle asks, earlier you said that you would believe in Christianity even if you knew for a fact that it was untrue but beneficial. Is that a contradiction with what you just said? In this case, you granted me a magic wand opportunity to actually change my understanding and my belief based on whether it was a good idea. I would be believing something that is false. And obviously, the pre-wand part of me would actually have to decide that the benefit was worth taking on a false belief, that this was a noble truth. I am open to the notion that there are noble truths. And of course, I might have the problem of I have a lot of my friends that are street epistemologists. So how well would I be able to maintain that? Ooh, would they let me alone? Ooh, I don't know. It's a magic wand situation. I don't think that I can believe something that I know is false. We are going to use a magic wand on my head, and that's not something I could actually choose. I think I'm doxastically involuntarent for technical jargon.
Yeah, sometimes hypotheticals take a lot of imagination.
Yeah. I want to grant a lot of imagination on this, and of course, there's a really big part of that hypothetical that believing it was actually good for me. And I want to grant that for the hypothetical, although I don't think that's likely.
Well, I'm open to other ways of asking this. Like I said, it's gone through a lot of the machine already. So, but
have you asked it in a way where it's just a single belief you're already discussing? Do you ask this before you even get to the claim?
It depends. Depends on, like a lot of times I ask this before I even start rolling because they kind of want to know what I'm doing. And I kind of give this as an example of, it could be like questions like this. And then I ask the question, and then that I get kind of an idea of the kind of interview partner they're going to be. And that could change the way that I approach SE with them. Because I think SE can be tailored to your conversation partner accordingly. One example would be if I know somebody's going to, maybe preach or like ramble on and on about their favorite thing, I would maybe elect to try hidden claim with them so that the less they say about it, the better.
Okay, that's that hidden claim to avoid preaching because they're not allowed to talk about the details of it. That's a fun.
Yeah, they're trying to keep the claim hidden. So I can leave my bloviation alarm in the car.
Right. Rochelle says, so that what I'm hearing is that when people say they believe things because it improves their lives, you assume that they're mistaken about those beliefs. No, I don't assume that they are mistaken about the benefits of those beliefs. I merely assert that if the only reason that you believe a thing is because it benefits you to believe it, that is a weak reason to believe that it's true. This is the question about whether the claim is true, not whether the claim is beneficial. If a person says that believing a thing benefits them, I believe you. Why not? I mean, you could be wrong, but let me not assume that up front. Can you think of any way we can test if a belief is beneficial or not? Sure. Find a group of people that have that belief and a group of people that don't have that belief and see if you can measure a difference in their outcomes. Just that simple. If there are no further questions, I'm going to wave and we'll see if the AI takes over. Anything else? I don't want to cut anybody off. Anybody want last words? Go ahead.
No, like I was about to say before I was cut off by my computer crashing. Yeah, no, I think I understand your position a lot more now, and I'm out of questions. But I think your position. This is my personal take on it. I think you may have been a little bit mistaken about what the question was asking in the beginning about, it was a preference thing. And, with the perfect map, you would prefer to be 100. You wouldn't work to bring it down to just 95%. You would prefer a perfect map reality.
Yes.
And so, Yeah, once we got to that point.
Nuanced question, and I,
Yeah.
all of these things are grinding through my head. Thank you for hearing me out on this. Thank you for letting me really think it out further. I'm a lot more solid about what I'm thinking about, and I'm not just going, oh well, here's a reason. It's solid in my head now.
I might have one
Yes.
real quick one. Like, how much of your reluctance to be 100% on anything goes into your thought process about this? Like, is it scary to say 100%?
I have
knowing that
danger in people being certain about things. I think perfect certainty is a fool's errand and is very enticing to people to gain certainty. And I think certainty is a poison pill. I think we should, whenever we see certainty asserted, we should start by doubting that and reduce our certainty to at least some sliver of intellectual modesty in the question. Rochelle says, why do you want people to believe things that are true? Because it benefits them in their lives and makes the society better.
And they vote.
Yeah, people vote.
And that affects us.
And it satiates their curiosity.
Okay. If we can use those tests to see that a belief is beneficial, why would it be a reason to believe it? Because beliefs that are held for no other reason than it's beneficial are likely to be wrong, and there's probably a more accurate belief that is more beneficial, I think.
So, I don't know. For me, that I can think of, maybe there's a cult, and the cult believes a thing, like overall, like it's a sort of thing where it's a cult mentality. It believes a thing that is false. The overall claim that the cult believes is false, but the people that are a part of the cult are very affluent, and it makes, like, you know, they are able to make a lot of money as far as, like, I don't know, things that have to do with the cult. So, like, you could be very well off, you could be very well taken care of, quality of life very good, but the overall thing that you believe, because you believe this thing, it's false, but it's beneficial.
Yeah,
maybe something like that.
In some situations where there's a group of people tied together around a belief structure, the more outrageous the belief structure that is accepted, the better the buy-in from people, and therefore the stronger the leverage advantage you have from having a group that is specifically working toward each other's common interests. So it almost doesn't matter. It could be flat Earth, and we could have flat Earth eggs that people buy. I don't know how eggs become flat Earth, but if you somehow had eggs that were focused on people who believed in flat Earth, you'd sell a lot of eggs. So yeah, there's practical advantages to believing in bad things. I don't think those advantages largely translate to the end user. I think they are tricky. Yeah. So if there are no further questions, I'm going to wave and see if the AI catches us.
Thanks for the invite.
Thank you. Thank you, David.